to the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint newspaper, coming to you with our program from the desk of the editor. I always like to remind you that the Voice and Viewpoint is San Diego's oldest African American publication, available in 89 zip codes, 17 cities, unincorporated areas, on the internet at no cost to you. Download the app. Most churches, senior centers, libraries, and so we've made efforts to just make sure, because our theme is a people without a voice cannot be heard. So this evening we're doing an open mic with Dr. Leonard Thompson, and we're going to be inviting you to join into our discussion. There's so much that we need to talk about, both nationally, locally, and internationally. And so we're excited about this time, and we thank you for sharing it with us because you could be doing something else. So we extend our appreciation. Dr. Thompson.
Well, Dr. Warren, again, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. There's so much going on around the nation, and I feel like, we're getting a little late start to today, but we're going to jump right into it and make sure that we cover as many issues as possible. I don't know where you want to start today. I don't know if we're going to go national, if we want to go local. It's just there's so much news all over the place.
Pick it wherever you say, that's where we'll go.
Well, I feel like flying, and so I want to go all the way to the White House, overseas, over to Qatar and every place else. Let's talk about this big jumbo jet plane that has been given to our current president, and he won't it. He like, I don't want to send it back. It don't make no sense. And I'm like saying, well, okay, let's follow the rules. So give us your take on the jumbo jet situation.
Well, this is the topic of my editorial this week, and it talks about what the Congress needs to be doing. The reality is this $400 million Palace in the Sky plane that has been given to the president is a violation of Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 of the U.S. Constitution, known as the Emolument Clause. The Emolument Clause governs gifts that are given to officials of the United States, from ambassadors to presidents. And so we see many times people present gifts as a gesture. Those gifts that are received on behalf of the country, they really go directly to the General Services Administration, where they are cataloged and archived. And so the Emolument Clause requires that there be a congressional approval of gifts that reach from foreign dignitaries and from foreign nations. And so this is definitely a constitutional violation, a conflict of interest. The president has indicated he wants to accept the plane. We have indicated that it would take 2 years to just retrofit it as a replacement to Air Force One. There is great national concern and security concern about having a foreign entity give us something so crucial to our national security and defense. As you know, when a national disaster such as 911 occur, the president is immediately ushered into Air Force One, and it has been determined that the safest place for him is in the air. And that plane, like Air Force One, the movie, is supported and surrounded by fighter jets, and it's refueled in the sky. It doesn't have to come down. And so here we have all of this happening. At the same time, we have a replacement for Air Force One under construction. It's going to be at least another 2 years before Boeing is ready. And when they do the Air Force One, they do two at a time. And so there's just a whole bunch of people looking at this. And I have indicated that the 213 Democratic members of the Congress should come together every day on the steps of the Capitol in protest of the Republicans blocking the constitutional oversight duties that are required under the Emolument Clause. And not only is the president violating the Emolument Clause, under the Department of Health and Human Services, an immigrant woman went into child labor, and they were at the hospital trying to take the baby upon birth, when under the 14th Amendment, anyone born on U.S. soil is by birth an American citizen. You don't have to be nationalized. Yeah. So let's got a lot of stuff going. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we stay with the plane. So right now you're saying that him accepting the plane now him accepting the plane is against the Constitution, and doesn't it also put his question the value of if he is going to be able to play favoritism with people that are giving him gifts?
Oh, I don't think we even raise that question anymore with him. I mean, he's violated all of that so blatantly. The only thing is that the Congress is sitting by watching constitutional violations. We're not doing anything. And I'm demanding that the Democrats, on a daily basis, just like Reverend Barber was doing with Prayer Monday, gather on the steps and demand that the Speaker and that they hold hearings and that this plain acceptance be tabled until there is such a vote from the Congress.
Yeah.
And so that's just the bottom line. Everything else is window dressing, and we already seeing over there, he's building a hotel in Qatar, the Arab Emirates. He's already got them all over the world, putting up new structures right and left, all kinds of financial gifts coming in, people waiting in line like the Godfather at the wedding day to shake hands and drop their gifts in the basket, and all of it is illegal.
Yeah, one of the things that concerns me more than anything else is that I believe that this new plane would cost more to fuel. It would need more people to maintain it and maintenance it, and it would take millions and millions of dollars to retrofit it to be able to do all that it needs to do. And so why should the American public pay for that or even be in that? And then after he leaves the White House, they're saying that the plane goes with him. Then my question is, then why is it even questioned? As far as I'm concerned, take it down to Mar-a-Lago, let it sit there for the next
No,
3 years.
But see, I don't even want to get there. The
Yeah.
first thing, accepting it is illegal.
Yeah.
And that makes everything else academic that's being discussed. Cost, retrofitting, where it goes. He's saying it's going to go to the Trump Library, Trust, all of that. That's academic. The bottom line is it's a constitutional violation. And if our Constitution is going to mean anything, then those who have taken an oath, they're sworn to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yeah.
So help them God, are sitting on their behinds not doing a thing. The president took such an oath. He's violating it right, left, center, and Sunday. So we only wanted to talk about maintenance, retrofitting, how long that's academic.
Okay.
It is an illegal gift, like all the other things he's been doing that are illegal.
Well-
and they should be challenged.
Well, that's a good point. Let's go directly now to the next topic that you shared is the Poe baby just trying to be born. And they are now deporting babies that are born with their parents.
Well, they're trying to. For years, that certain Republican MAGA element has taken the position that women are just coming over here pregnant so that the children can be born in the States. And they use an extreme example of a woman who's about to go into labor and she's at the border. And the whole idea, if she can get the bottom half of her body across the line when she delivers, then the baby is a U.S. citizen. And they're contesting that shouldn't be. Well, the Constitution doesn't allow for that. The Constitution does two very important things about citizenship under the 14th Amendment. First of all, it establishes corporations as artificial persons, which a lot of people miss. And that's done there. And the second thing is that the right of citizenship by birth. Those are two crucial things. And many people in this country have dual citizenship. Speaking of citizenship, Trump is also he wants to offer citizenship and residency to South African white folks who say that they are they're refugees because they are a minority and the blacks are taking their property.
Well, that was my next go-to is talking about that, and South African government is saying it's not true. They're talking about the crime rate with the white farmers or the South African farmers compared to the multiple thousands of African or South Africans that have been killed, and they said roughly about 49% or 49 29 or 49 Afrikaners have been killed with this violence, but over 20,000 South Africans have been killed.
We don't even talk, you know what, and most of us ignore that whole thing. I remember when Kenya was going through the revolution and Jomo Kenyatta led people against the whites, and that scared the hell out of them because They were going into white farms and white farmers' homes with machetes, and they were cutting up people and killing them in their beds,
Yeah.
and that scared them. The bottom line is when South Africa got its freedom, that Mandela and de Klerk worked together because they realized, and Mandela understood this, that the white South Africans still economically controlled. Now, a lot of people feel, especially the African Communist Party, made up of the Zulus, they feel that these farms should have been taken a long time ago and nationalized and redistributed and given back to the people. Okay? And so you're not going to find a whole bunch of sympathy for a handful of whites who used apartheid to oppress people, make them have cards to pass and go, kill them for gathering and demanding freedom and all those atrocities. We can't sweep those under the rug. But I tell you what Trump is looking at. He's looking like a country like Vancouver, British Columbia, which will allow people, if they have millions of dollars of money, they can come into Vancouver and they give them citizenship and they can invest their money and they can be absorbed financially into the culture. And so we're not for sale in that manner. And when you get citizenship here, you give up the citizenship that you had someplace else, with a couple of exceptions. Many people who are born, first of all, Germany as a country allows dual citizenship. And many Americans are born on military bases in places like Germany and Italy, and I know some folks here. They have dual citizenship because of where they were born in terms of the country, but also because they were born on military property, which is like being born in the embassy because that's considered the property of the U.S. And so all these things we're not paying a lot of attention to. At the same time, Trump is canceling the agreement that we had for for the Haitian refugees who fled from the quake and the disasters and hurricanes
And the coup
and
and
trying to
everything.
cancel all of that. And it's just blatant racism, and it's wrong. And that group of supporters are willing to suffer the economic loss that's coming to them from the tariffs and from their businesses, because many of them have decided that that's just the price of purging America. That's the price of making America white again. And we just have to suffer and go through it and put up with it. And it is ridiculous. But
Yeah. Well, one of the things about it is that not only is he doing that to the Cubans, but he's also doing that to the Afghanistanis that were here, and they're now trying to ship them back, saying that their country is safe enough for them to return after they basically supported America. They're basically kicking people out that were literally supporting the country during time of conflict.
And this is very important because these are the things that let people have an erosion of confidence in America. Those people put their lives at risk to help us. That's why that airlift was so painful to watch, that people who knew if they stayed there, they were going to be killed by the Taliban because of the support they had given to the Americans, many as translators, interpreters, and all the things that they did. You know, it reminds me of the Black Admiral Carter or Carlson. I forget his name right now, and he's been here. He was the commander of the USS Midway at the end of the Vietnam War, that ship that we have downtown. And when they were purging Saigon and coming in the Viet Cong to kill people, what he did was he pushed helicopters and aircraft carriers over the side, which cost millions of dollars to make room on the flight deck to gather all of these people so he could take them to safety. And he wasn't worried about his rank. He wasn't worried about was he going to get another promotion or whatever. And so there are people living in this country today of Vietnamese descent who are safe because of the sacrifice that he made in terms of what he did. And Trump is underdoing confidence in America. We're still talking about looking at the Arab Emirates and the partnership there with those people. At the same time, we're supposed to be partners with Israel, and Israel has been just engaged in genocide in terms of the murder of people in Gaza, the bombing, the denial of basic human food and supplies over the past months. And it was so encouraging to see a week ago that leaders of about 5 European nations got together and they went to the Ukraine to help to meet with Zelensky, and they're going to be supporting him. And Putin is talking about a 30-day truce, but we must be clear about something with Putin, and this is where black people must pay attention to the things happening on the world stage because they affect us now, today, and tomorrow in terms of how we live. No, we don't have the draft anymore, but we have people making decisions that have economic impact on our day-to-day livelihood.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the officer was Rear Admiral Lawrence Chambers,
Mm.
that was with the Midway, and we had the honor to meet him on the Midway for Bayside Gospel Concert
He
aboard the
came back for
Midway.
that, and on another occasion, he was here in San Diego, and we had a breakfast honoring him at the University Club.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he's still alive, and he's cool. He's good people.
95 years old
Yes.
as we speak. So we talked about the plane, we talked about South African, we talked about citizenship, we talked about the expelling, basically bringing in other people, but then expelling everybody else based on, I believe that's the Elon Musk deal. Saying let's now move towards the big question. We've dealt with tariffs and they go up and down, and I really believe that he is moving the tariffs and playing a tariff game to make his friends richer.
Of course he is, but at the same time, he's hurting people, and Trump should understand Wall Street better than anyone coming out of New York. And here's where the harm comes, and we don't talk about it much. And I'm glad MSNBC really spends a lot of time on documenting the stuff that he's doing because mainstream media is not really dealing with it. And you wouldn't know if you didn't follow CNN, Limited Degree, MSNBC, News Nation. You got to look at all of them. You got to look at Fox, even though they're pro-Trump. You got to look at all of them to understand what's happening. Mm-hmm. And it's almost, I don't want to go too far with it, but this is a thing that I want to make about what is taking place in terms of what he's doing. Mainstream media is ignoring so much, but the stock market goes this way. Let's take futures, for instance. Let's take the fruits or pork bellies. All of these things that are perishable elements that are being traded and sold on the stock market, soybeans and stuff. People are making decisions for future crops based on present market dollar amounts. And if that's fluctuating up and down, at the same time, people are moving away from buying from American farmers, as the Chinese have done, to looking for other markets. Mm-hmm. If we look at Ukraine, which has been, most people didn't know until the war, that Ukraine is a major global producer of wheat. Yeah. And they ship food all over the African continent to strike against starvation. So we need to wake up and understand that what's happening to other people affects us, and we need to be on our toes.
Let me ask you this question. What do you think about his attack on the media? Today, I believe the Voice of America's channel fell silent.
Well, again, Congress has a role to play. And the Voice of America was created for a very important reason in terms of letting people outside of this country. It was almost considered a propaganda piece, but it let people outside of this country know what was happening in the country since we are or have been a global leader up to this point. So that's been very crucial. Now, I give a comparison to this. I listen with great intensity to the BBC on NPR. And of course, NPR, National Public Radio, has fallen under attack. He's trying to cut off funding for them. And I believe that there is enough private money in America to offset the cuts. But the nature of NPR has been that it was a people's station. And the people who produce the news at NPR, they give time and detail, and you always get more from them than you will from other media outlets who are just competing against each other in terms of space or airtime or ratings, I should say, in terms of trying to get ratings. So BBC, always gives you a interesting impression of what's happening in America on a daily basis. Voice of America was that kind of entity. If you notice the pattern of what Trump is doing, I'm just going to mention it briefly and put it all together. What did he do? When he first went into office, he fired all of the inspector generals. So now they can't look over his shoulders. Then he decided that he's going to replace the director of the FBI. He replaced the Justice Department. He replaced Homeland Security. He's getting rid of the generals. He replaced the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He put a weak puppet in for the Secretary of Defense because ultimately he wants to violate the Posse Comitatus Act, which speaks against having American troops on the streets on American soil. And so he is trying to eliminate all of those safeguards. He went after the media. He cut certain contracts away from the New York Times, trying to end them. Then he went after after lawyers and threatening them. And a lot of them caved when they had no reason to, when they understand the law. He already had the Congress in his pocket, the Republicans, because you can't do anything in the House without that. So Mike Johnson holds that, and he put Bondi in charge of the Department of Justice. He cancels things like monitoring the voting rights, which has been important to us. He withdrew the government support of those cases in places like Alabama, where they're trying to do gerrymandering, and the Republicans are doing districts that will eliminate or reduce black voter participation. He then went and tried to impose control over voting in the country, which he can't control. He's got over 200 lawsuits pending against him. He's got a 6-man majority on the Supreme Court, which would be the instrument that would come. So what he's done is moved in a position of nullifying the checks and balances that go with Articles 1, 2, and 3. And the final blow in that dimension was when he arrested the judge because she let the people out another door, which was crazy. Then Homeland Security just arrested the mayor of Newark in a demonstration and manhandled members of Congress. And all of this is Gestapo authoritarian action that was never envisioned as being possible on American soil.
My question would be, is where are the Democratic Party, where are the Democratic leaders, why are they so quiet?
Let me address that, and I keep doing this editorially. The Democrats are 213 people in the Congress compared to the Republicans, 218. And one of the weapons in Congress is that if you have a bill introduced and you want to bring it to the floor, if you can get 218 votes, that activates what's called a discharge petition. And even Mike Johnson can't stop the vote. It's been hoped that at some point, at least 4 or 5 Republicans will cross the line to join the Democrats to overturn, because the Republicans recently took an action to eliminate the Democrats holding any investigative hearings on anything that Trump's doing. And so they are solidifying. But what's happening, and we're seeing it in the local elections that have taken place recently, that people are rising up. They're rising up. In Nebraska, they just elected a black man as mayor over a white woman who was a Trump supporter who backed away from Trump in terms of what we have happening. So the pressure is coming. Now that budget bill that he needs from the Senate, the Republicans, remember, every day in this country, in every major city, in every state, there are thousands of people marching in protest against Trump, against Social Security, against Elon Musk, against Tesla, against everything that they're trying to do. The other thing I didn't mention, and I put it in this editorial, Trump tried to fire the librarian, who's a black woman that had been with the Library of Congress for over 20 years. The Library of Congress is called that for a purpose because Congress controls the Library of Congress. And he's stepping over the line from Article 1 to now, from Article 2, executive, to trying to fire her. They rose up against him. Those people were blocked from entering the building in terms of this. So people are responding and they're feeling the pressure. And now some Republicans are seeing Trump, and they're playing it on his remarks on cable, MSNBC. I'm not going to touch Social Security. That's a lie from the pit of hell. You done close offices, you done lay people off, and you're trying to get all this personal data. Yes, you're going after Social Security.
So with the DOJ, not the DOJ, the Dole's department, with Elon Musk now leaving and going back to try to salvage his business, how effective do you think they're going to be to take that same stance that they've been taking with him leading the charge?
Well, first of all, the whole Doe's movement was illegal in the first place.
Yeah.
There was nothing that gave the president authority to designate a person like Musk to go after all of these departments. He didn't even have the authority to close the Department of Education, which created in 1973. That Congress created the department. And you might recall, if you go back and look historically, that prior to the Department of Education, education was a part of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. And then it was divided, and all of this is taking place. He's going after student loans now, letting collection companies go after people, even though President Biden and all the one through the pandemic made adjustments to help people get on their feet. And so Musk is in conflict. He's got problems with the cabinet. Rubio is such a disappointment because as Secretary of State, after Waltz stepped down as National Security Advisor, Rubio took that position on. So Rubio's got like 3 positions, and in no instance is he functioning as the Secretary of State was intended to be, who is in line behind the Vice President to be head of this country.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, because I think that there are certain things that are taking place that are just so uncouth and unnecessary, and we should be shamed about it. I want to go to the DOGE, the DOGE organization, the Department of Education and Efficiency. And I don't know if people realize that they actually hired a 19-year-old hacker to be a part of that organization, and he is known affectionately as Big Balls. And so my question comes into play: how much more disrespect and how much more are we going to denigrate the office of the presidency by allowing people to refer to a 19-year-old hacker, meaning that he is he should be a felon for hacking. Now he's a part of the government, and his title is Big Balls.
Well, in time, Trump's ego will catch up with most of this, okay? He wasn't just one. They hired a lot of 19-year-olds that were computer whizzes who knew nothing about the apartments that they were going into. They went into the whole defense apparatus, NORAD and National Oceanic Place. They've suspended the weather surveys. They've suspended the satellite service. I mean, there's just what is clear is they are trying to do a power grab to get data, to get data on people, personal data as much as possible. The question is, okay, what are they going to do with all of this? I believe that they are building a master list, and in some respects, this is part of the prelude of Armageddon, because there is a relationship between the things that Trump's doing, the impact on America, what the Bible says about the end times, all right, the actions of Putin, the actions of North Korea. All of these people are playing a part in a scenario that's already laid out from Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Daniel to Revelation. And people want to ignore it because, they don't believe in it, and I don't believe in Jesus and all that. Well, you don't have to believe. It's not going to stop because you don't believe. But there's a pattern here. And the one thing that there's hope for us is that because of social media, we have a chance not to go the way that Germany and Rome and other countries went, because we have access. If Trump could shut down media access, he would. He just can't get it yet. That's why he's going after NPR. He's intimidating the other major outlets. And it's unfortunate because they have an obligation that goes beyond dollars and cents. Okay, so I know I'm throwing out a lot, and we didn't tell people, Dr. Thompson, if they had a question or comment which they could send in, they could send it in on a computer. We're at godradio1.com, or we at our internet. The radio station is 858-251-6111. And I would hope very much it would be so helpful if we appreciate the fact that you're listening. We appreciate the fact that you're taking it in. I reaffirm that I don't say anything on this that I can't prove. Uh, I got a hard drive that's loaded with facts, and much of it because I was there when it happened. As
Hmm.
Bolton wrote the thing about I was in the room, well, I've been in the room through a whole bunch of this stuff. And so it's even more disturbing to me because I've seen what happened. I was there when the Nixon thing went deal. I was there when Barbara Jordan was fighting in the Senate against Nixon. And Trump will never do what Nixon did. Nixon was smart enough to pull out and go out with a commitment to be pardoned and not have anything happen. And he went to Trump's attitude is I'm gonna take everything I can get and I want more, more, more. The whole Bitcoin situation he has is illegal. He's establishing a currency against the currency of the United States, which is illegal. And to the American people, I want to say when you get off your butt and find someone to replace the Republicans who are not doing anything in every district in which you live, then we can regain control of government. The harm that's being done at this point is going to take us a long time to recover. And this is not about the Democrats, but since we have the two-party system controlling the House, we need to regain the House. If we can get 5 Democratic seats, we regain it and we have a chance. Okay, we got to watch the Senate. We pick up Senate seats like the sister that became the senator from the state of Maryland, which has a black governor, but we still got to monitor what's going on. And I know we're busy earning a living. Food is
Right.
up. When Trump said it would be down, gas is up.
Hmm.
Everything is costing us more than it was before. And so what? They're
Yeah.
going to be all right.
Yeah, I recently talked to a group of Republicans, and they said that, oh, we're going to take a hit right now, but the bump that we're going to get in the next few 4 months, we'll be happy that he's in office. And so that's what a lot of the Republicans are betting on is that we're going to go through these tough times for a moment, but then there's going to be a great, great rise, and money's going to flow again, and we're going to be happy that he's president. My concern also is that the insider trading deals and the things that are taking place with his family, the favoritism that are being taking place with his family and business. And his daughter is awful quiet. So that lets me know that she's in the midst of something that she doesn't want to be visible, but she's making a lot of money at it.
Oh, there's no question that they all are making a tremendous amount of money. But let me just remind you of something about the Republicans because black people went Republican because of Lincoln as a Republican and what he did in terms of freeing the slaves. But Lincoln didn't free the slaves because he loved them. He freed the slaves as a strategic move. And if you read Before the Mayflower, you get some real insight into what Lincoln was really all about. It wasn't because he had you with that stovetop hat that he had a great love for the darkies. That wasn't the case. Didn't happen at all. And so now what we see, we look at that and we look at where we are uh, right now, and we must remember that Roosevelt, who came along, and I just did a piece on the first 100 days of Roosevelt following Hoover that almost destroyed the country, compared to Trump's first 100 days. And during the first 100 days, Roosevelt brought forth a whole cadre of things from Social Security to the Civilian Job Corps to soup lines to feeding people and all these things that he did. Okay, and so that's when we became democratic. But the Republican philosophy has always been one based on fewer intrusions by government in terms of regulation and the lives of the people. Reagan, Bush, all of them were always for deregulation.
Yeah.
And deregulation always meant that the poor had less. We have had more airplane crashes and deaths and collisions this year than we've had in the past 30 years.
Yeah.
And what does he do? He fires the head of the FAA and puts some gamer in charge, some joke. And so people, we have to get concerned and start voting and start participating. And this is especially important. Gee, Dr. Thompson, let me get on this roll. I'm so concerned that we are celebrating the 5th anniversary of the death of George Floyd.
Yes.
And I have to remind black people that in many instances, there were more white people out there marching in protest for how he was killed in many situations than black people. And in many cities, there were more whites than blacks. So this thing we're looking at now, these marches, you don't see too many black folks. But black folks, we have an obligation because our interest is at stake. Yeah, we know the people marching. Many of them don't love us, would put the shackles back on us if they could. But right now we have a collective interest. And if you're in the boat, you're going to either bail water or you're going to sit back and watch it sink while others try to bail.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the things about it is that this is a time that we're going to have to be active. We're going to have to be vigilant. We're going to have to be awoke and stay conscious of what's taking place. Let's come back to the city of San Diego and let's talk about the budget.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Well, let's just talk about it. I know that the mayor today presented another plan, and I know that there are so many things that are happening. I hear more money went to the police department, less money went to the libraries. I didn't get to see the whole entire budgetary thing.
Well, I've had a person covering all of that because that was taking place at the same time the opening of the facility dealing with human trafficking is going on. And I think the mayor made a yeoman's effort. I haven't looked at all of the changes. We knew the police department was going to get their money back. There's no way they weren't going to get it. But the little thing he did was with the Northeastern Division, and it tickles me, they're going to be reporting to a lieutenant instead of to a captain. Big deal. Big deal, okay? But what's happening with the rest of what's going on out here, okay? Because the academies right now, I don't see any blacks going into the academies for future police officers. Mm-hmm. I don't see any blacks going in the fire department. Oh, yeah, I know. You close that station and you save $3 million by bringing the fire chief into the building downtown. Hip, hip, hooray. But we still, and I love him and he's nice and he's black and all that, but we still don't have any money coming to help us. The police department is using their foundation to raise money to finance their interests. I don't see the fire department foundation raising money to help recruit us. I see people running the churches begging folks to sign up. That's not the way it's done. And so the libraries, yes, they suffered. I've always been with the Library Foundation. We've had too many cuts. We did get the tutorial program restored to the libraries. And then they were talking about this idea, and maybe it's still going to come up when they do the final vote, that we would ask areas like Rancho Bernardo and other areas that are doing well to give up a day or so, and while we put more money in districts 4, 8, and 9. And the council member was talking about he was going to use the census because he has people in this district and he want to make sure they don't get left out. I wrote an editorial and I said to districts 4, 8, and 9, I know you don't do this. It takes more than I really feel it in my gut I'm being mistreated. All you have to do is go to the census. The census has what's called single-member districts that are divided, in each census tract is subdivided into districts of 2,500 people per district. And if you look at your electoral district and then look at the census and look at the subdivision, you can determine how much income is in each group, and now you can come forth with a documented expression of your need, as opposed to, we're not being treated right, and we should have some more, and I just don't like it. Well, you don't vote. If you don't vote, you're not going to get it.
Now, 2,500 households?
2,500 people.
People?
People. 2,500 residents per single-member district.
Okay.
And when you look at the 2,500, the Department of Commerce keeps up with this, then you can go into those and see what the income level is and the whole bit. This started in 1976 When Congress passed, I think it was 76, I might have the date off, the Humphrey Hawkins Full Employment Act. And the whole idea at the time was that America could stand to have a 4.5% unemployment rate and that was okay. And of course, poor people were the ones that were hit the hardest. And this was back during the time when we had public service and comprehensive employment training, Title II under the CETA Act, and before then under Manpower Development and Training. And so what happened was by going into this district, we were able to make an argument that some people will have fewer folks unemployed, but they still need to be involved, and some will have more people unemployed. So that's when the census tract kicked in with some flexibility, so that 4.5% doesn't say that if you don't have 4.5%, you just got to suffer until you get those many unemployed. The single member districts allow you to go in and look at the economics and make suggestions for change.
Okay. And so lots of things that are happening in the city with the budget cuts, budgets conversation. The final budget comes in when?
Well, the 14th, I think tomorrow, is the date the 14th?
Today's
The
14th.
date is 14th. I believe the budget has to be done before the fiscal year. I think it's sometime by the end of May, 1st of June, because the new fiscal year starts on July 1st. And so in the state, remember, we're dealing with two fiscal years. The state fiscal year starts July 1st. The federal fiscal year 26, starts October 1st, because September 31st is the last date of that point. And so they're on two different schedules, and we are obligated to look at both, and we're going to see how we're going to come out.
Okay. With that being said, let's go to the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. You have a special edition coming out. Is it this week or coming up?
No, it's going to be the week of the 29th, I believe.
Okay.
And we are publishing for the 5th year our annual Minority Health Report. And what that does is it looks at 6 major ethnic subgroups in terms of their health areas, from heart trouble, diabetes, asthma, low weight birth, the strokes, and all of these things that plague people. And we look at them in terms of these categories, and we see what the numbers are for Native Americans, what the numbers are for the Alaskans, what the numbers are for Pacific Islanders, what the numbers are for blacks, and just what the numbers are for Latinos. And we go down these numbers and we look at those numbers both in terms of education, income, health status, what we see statistically. And so we provide a comprehensive view of the people who are most vulnerable in our healthcare system. We also publish a Citizens Bill of Rights in terms of people seeing what they're able to do, what their rights are. And we're very fortunate that some of our limited participating sponsors in this happen to be people like San Diego County Health and Human Services, the Community Health Foundation is there, a part of us out of Chula Vista doing major input with us. The United Domestic Workers are a part of it. Alvarola Hospital is a part of it. And so we have, theoretically, every health care hospital should be a part of supporting this, since the people here, we should have them. We should have Scripps, Sharp, UC San Diego Health. All of these people should be involved in this, because these are the people that they provide health care for. Much of that money comes from the federal government, even though those programs are being targeted by JFK Jr., we still have that. Our hospitals are teaching facilities, and they get federal dollars. And that's why the Republicans are beginning to wake up to the insanity of the budget that being pushed by Trump, because most of us will not feel the impact of what they're doing for another 4 years, I believe, 3 or 4 years. And then it's like, hey, it's too late. We already did.
Yeah. And so, as we begin to move forward, health is going to play a major role. What are some of the topics that are coming up this week in the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint that hits the stands tomorrow?
Well, one of the things that I'm most concerned about, and staff has got, I think we went to press today. We have a story that involves a black woman who went to a healthcare provider, and she was getting blood work done, and the clinician there, her last name was King, and on her bracelet that they do when they verify your date of birth and all this before, they wrote King Kong,
Oh, wow.
which is racist, and then they thought it was okay, and then when she went through it with dignity, and then when she finally put it on the site and it went viral, all of a sudden they want to talk to her. It is a reminder that I make to black people about what we go through dealing with healthcare. A lot of people feel that if we don't dress a certain way when we go in, we're going to be looked at as being a welfare recipient or disrespected or disregarded. I remind us that there was a prominent black physician, a woman who came down with COVID, and she had given her life to treating people. And when she found herself a patient, she was dogged out just because she was black.
Yeah.
You know, I had a case years ago of a black woman at UC SD who was put in in a lab where everyone was white and wore gloves, and because he was black, they ordered black gloves for her with no explanation for it. And those kind of cases should not be sued based on discrimination, but they should be sued based on unfair labor practices. See, because white people bring lawsuits on the basis of unfair labor practice, which gets action. Discrimination has been so watered down and weakened with congressional realignment that the whole burden of proof has been shifted to the victim away from the perpetrator.
Wow.
But labor understands unfair labor practice, all right? And so these are things that we would love to share more with our folks. I would not like to take all this information with me when I leave, but in order to share it, people have to show an interest in wanting it. And one of the things I've discovered is as you get older, I didn't realize when I was younger, I talked to older people and I would ask, well, why didn't you tell me something? And they say, well, why didn't you ask? Because you become conservative with your time and your energy, and you really only want to talk to people who want to listen.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping, like Shirley Chisholm, we are unbossed. We're not owned by anyone, and God has blessed keeping us with the kind of independence that allows us to speak truth to power without any fear of repercussions in any way, and so this is important. And when we do this program, I know some people say, well, we don't want to say anything because we're listening, but it's important that Dr. Thompson and I hear from you. Raise a question. The only dumb question is the one that you don't ask. And if we have questions and we got information, I know you got to have questions if you don't have it. And Dr. Thompson, this is also time to remind people that when we do Black Men and Women United on Tuesday, that's an open forum. If you're Black African American, you're automatically a member, and you should be on that call from 8 to 9. It's a roundtable discussion. We talk about how we can help each other and what the issues are. And we have to have that kind of communication, folks, because communication is what keeps us healing and what keeps us whole. And the enemy of our soul and in government would like for us to be isolated and not talk to each other. And we have to overcome that.
And the biggest thing more than anything else is that as you are tuning in, we know that this is an educational show, but again, to educate, you also want to make sure you ask the questions, because when you begin to ask the questions, then one, iron sharpens iron. So as we go forth and we bring information to you, our goal is that we give you information to activate you in our communities and throughout the country. And don't just take, what I call what we see on social media or just in media in general and take that as the gospel. But we have to literally do more and more research, because so much is what they call fake news, false news, all the other things. And we have to make sure that we're getting the truth as much as we can.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Thompson. And we're going to continue to speak truth to power. We love what we do, and we're not going to stop. And you know, the key is being of service rather than looking to be served. And there are too many of us that want titles, we want recognition, we want attention, we want everything except putting the needs of our people collectively. And we got to this point because people who came before us were concerned about the whole. They struggled to achieve in spite of labels and hardships and obstacles because every step that they made was a step for all of us. And so we need to return to that collective concern and love for each other. You don't
Now,
have to agree with me, but you know what? As far as the enemy is concerned, if you look like me, they don't care whether you got an accent or not.
Yeah.
All they're concerned is there's just another black person and we got to stop them. And that's the agenda in America right now. Let's not waste time talking about DEI. Don't fall for that trick. Let's talk about achieving in spite of obstacles. That's what we do.
yeah. And then last but not least, you're getting ready to take a trip on Monday. Can we just talk about the trip that is taking place and the meeting that is taking place in Sacramento?
Well, on Monday, a number of us in the state, in the black press, are going to be in Sacramento. We're going to be meeting with members of the Assembly and the Senate, and we're going to be there lobbying on behalf and against some bills that are being produced by people like the California News Publishers Association, encouraging bills to change the law so that public notice, and that's what you see, and when you look in the Voice and Viewpoint, you see the classifieds, name changes, subpoenas, requests for proposals, bids, job notices from the county. Those are public notices, okay? And the law says that you have a right to that information because you're a taxpayer. It's not based on, well, how many people read and who looks. That's your right. And there are people who want to cancel that information, put it totally online, and we're going to be there lobbying to not let these things happen. We're going to be meeting collectively, and it's going to make a difference.
Well, with that being said, Dr. Warren, we have given them an earful on tonight. This is from the Desk of the Editor with Dr. John Warren. Stay tuned. Next week, we will be back. Any final words, Dr. Warren?
I just want you to remember that eternal vigilance is the price of freedom, and you can't wait until they come for you, and then you hollering, screaming when you weren't there for the others who they came for before you. And be not confused. They will come for us, and we need to be ready to fight just beyond